I was recently watching a video about anomalistic psychology with Professor Chris French. He was giving a lecture about psychological phenomenon that leads people to believe that things that aren't actually paranormal really are. I'll put a link to the video in the description.
Just to give you a little bit of background, I'm Professor Chris French from Goldsmiths, University of London. I'm the head of the Anomalistic Psychology Research Unit, and I've been interested in weird stuff for a very long time. For 10 years, I edited The Skeptic magazine, so you can probably guess what kind of a perspective on the paranormal you're about to get. I mean, skepticism is right at the heart of science, and an important part of skepticism is to always be open to the possibility that you might be wrong, that new evidence might come along that makes you revise your opinions about things, your beliefs about the way the world is.
At the end of this video, during a Q&A session with the audience, he mentioned someone I had never heard of.
Have you ever found anything that you couldn't explain?
I think it'd be very, very arrogant to claim, I've got a definitive knockdown explanation for every single claim that has been put forward. I haven't. Very, very rarely seen anything that has even begun to kind of challenge my skepticism. But there are a couple of examples. Again, I'm going to talk very briefly about them.
The man's name was David Mandell, and he painted things before they happened. David Mandell claimed to have had dreams about future events, and upon waking, he painted or drew what he saw in the dreams, and even scribbled notes at the bottom. After having one of these dreams and painting the picture, he goes down to his local bank and takes a picture with the painting in front of a clock that displays the time and date. He's painted hundreds of paintings since he first started doing this in the 1980s. So what has he seen in these dreams? In one of these dreams, he saw an attack on an airport. 9 months after this vision, the IRA attacked a nearby airport.
I saw runway lights. I seem to think were runway lights. In the foreground, right in the foreground, there was 3 cars. Suddenly, as I was looking at these, something came out of this centre car and falling down onto this river or runway at the back here. Perhaps Heathrow, I've put along there. The most amazing similarity that really makes me absolutely certain that this was the event I'd seen in the dream was this similarity between the radiator grille on the central cars, the centre of the 3 cars here, and this burnt out car here with the same type of centre pillar, and that was very significant. The cars either side are very similar as well. Somebody is saying to me in the dream, this is what you're going to see in the newspapers when this event happens, and me actually drawing.
In another vision, David saw a Concorde jet with its engines on fire. He knew it was a French jet and it was going to crash. Not too long after this, he dreamed about the Concorde again, and made a note on the next drawing that said, trying to reach an airport a few miles away. 15 months after this second vision, a French Concorde's engines caught on fire soon after takeoff. The pilot's last words before the crash were, he was going to try to make it to a nearby airport.
I could see all this flames, which you can see here, coming from the back end of the plane. And I've also written Concorde crash. I've written the French flag.
David has had visions of many other tragic events, such as hurricanes and earthquakes, but one of his visions was by far the creepiest.
This was one of the most frightening dreams I think I've ever had. It was 2 enormous towers. Suddenly the whole place was actually shaking. I suggested the head of the Statue of Liberty over here. The noise was indescribable. And again, as in the first dream, it was the noise of these buildings literally crashing down on themselves that actually woke me up. They were shaking so violently. The only thing I could think of was an earthquake.
And it was an artist who used to think that his dreams foretold the future. He couldn't actually specify when the events that he saw in his dreams would take place, but what he would do is he'd have his dreams, he'd get up in the morning, he'd fix an image in his mind and then draw a picture or paint a picture, maybe put a few notes on it. Then he'd toddle off down to his local Barclays bank and have a photograph taken of him standing in front of the date thing. That was his way of trying to show I didn't paint the picture after I heard this event being reported on the news. And some of the stuff, one earthquake looks much the same as another, not that convincing, but there were some aspects that you thought, oh, that's interesting. So he did 2 pictures of the Twin Towers collapsing, one 2 months before it happened and one 5 years before it happened. The one 5 years before it happened was actually 5 years to the day. So you've got this kind of rather spooky picture of him standing there in the bank, holding this picture. It's quite definitely the Twin Towers, and the date thing on the wall, giving the date of, it was 9/11, wasn't it? So 11th of September. So